I'll get her back for this if it's the last thing I do. So there are some loud airplanes flying outside. I don't know if you can hear that. Hate mail continued to arrive for Hermione over the following week, and although she followed Hagrid's advice and stopped opening it, several of her ill-wishers sent howlers, which exploded at the Gryffindor table and shrieked insults at her for the whole hall to hear. Even those people who didn't read Witch Weekly knew all about the supposed Harry, Crumb, Hermione triangle now. Harry was getting sick of telling people that Hermione wasn't his girlfriend. "It'll die down, though," he told Hermione, "if we just ignore it. People got bored with that stuff she wrote about me last time." "I want to know how she's listening into private conversations when she's supposed to be banned from the grounds," said Hermione angrily. Hermione hung back in their next Defense Against the Dark Arts lesson to ask Professor Moody something. The rest of the class was very eager to leave. Moody had given them such a rigorous test of hex deflection that many of them were nursing small injuries. Harry had such a bad case of twitchy ears, he had to hold his hands clapped over them as he walked away from the class. "Well, Rita's definitely not using an invisibility cloak," Hermione panted 5 minutes later, catching up with Harry and Ron in the entrance hall and pulling Harry's hand away from one of his wiggling ears so that he could hear her. "Moody says he didn't see her anywhere near the judge's table at the second task, or anywhere near the lake." "Hermione, is there a point in telling you to drop this?" said Ron. "No," said Hermione stubbornly. "I want to know how she heard me talking to Victor, and how she found out about Hagrid's mum." "Maybe she had you bugged," said Harry. "Bugged?" said Ron blankly. "What, put fleas on her or something?" Harry started to explain about hidden microphones and recording equipment. Ron was fascinated, but Hermione interrupted them. "Aren't you two ever going to read Hogwarts a history?" "What's the point?" said Ron. "You know it by heart. We can just ask you." All those substitutes for magic muggles use. Oh, all those substitutes for magic muggles use. I was having a hard time following that. Muggles don't have magic, so they use technology as a substitute for magic. All those substitutes for magic muggles use: electricity, computers, radar, all those things. They all go haywire around Hogwarts. There's too much magic in the air. No, Rita's using magic to eavesdrop. She must be. If I could just find out what it is. Ooh, if it's illegal, I will have her. "Haven't you got enough to worry about?" Ron asked her. "Do you have to start a vendetta against Rita Skeeter as well?" "I'm not asking you to help," Hermione snapped. "I'll do it on my own." She marched back up the marble staircase without a backward glance. Harry was quite sure she was going to the library. "What's the betting she comes back with a box of I Hate Rita Skeeter badges?" said Ron. Hermione, however, did not ask Ron and Harry to help her pursue vengeance against Rita Skeeter, for which they were both grateful, because their workload was mounting even higher in the days before the Easter holidays. Harry frankly marveled at the fact that Hermione could research magical methods of eavesdropping as well as everything else they had to do. He was working flat out just to get through all their homework, though he made a point of sending regular food packages up to the cave in the mountain for Sirius after last summer. Harry had not forgotten what it felt like to be continually hungry. There was a semicolon in here that was kind of messing me up. Sending regular food packages up to the cave in the mountain for Sirius. After last summer, Harry had not forgotten what it felt like to be continually hungry. The summer the Dursleys weren't feeding him. He enclosed notes to Sirius telling him that nothing out of the ordinary had happened and that they were still waiting for an answer from Percy. Hedwig didn't return until the end of the Easter holidays. Percy's letter was enclosed in a package of Easter eggs that Mrs. Weasley had sent. Both Harry's and Ron's were the size of dragon eggs and full of homemade toffee. Hermione's, however, was smaller than a chicken egg. Her face fell when she saw it. "Your mum doesn't read Witch Weekly by any chance, does she, Ron?" she asked. "Yeah," said Ron, whose mouth was full of toffee. "Gets it for recipes." Hermione looked sadly at her tiny egg. "Don't you want to see what Percy's written?" Harry asked her hastily. Percy's letter was short and irritated. "As I am constantly telling the Daily Prophet, Mr. Crouch is taking a well-deserved break. He is sending in regular owls with instructions. No, I haven't actually seen him, but I think I can be trusted to know my own superior's handwriting. I have quite enough to do at the moment without trying to squash these ridiculous rumors. Please don't bother me again unless it's something important. Happy Easter." The start of the summer term would normally have meant that Harry was training hard for the last Quidditch match of the season. This year, however, it was the third and final task in the Tri-Wizard tournament for which he needed to prepare. But he still didn't know what he would have to do. Finally, in the third week of May, Professor McGonagall held him back in Transfiguration. "You are to go down to the Quidditch field tonight at 9 o'clock, Potter," she told him. "Mr. Bagman will be there to tell the champions about the third task." So at 8:30 that night, Harry left Ron and Hermione in the Gryffindor Tower and went downstairs. As he crossed the entrance hall, Cedric came up from the Hufflepuff common room. "What do you reckon it's going to be?" he asked Harry. Excuse me. As they went together down the stone steps out into the cloudy night. "Fleur keeps going on about underground tunnels. She reckons we've got to find a treasure." "That wouldn't be too bad," said Harry, thinking that he would simply ask Hagrid for a Niffler to do the job for him. They walked down the dark lawn to the Quidditch stadium, turned through a gap in the stands, and walked out onto the field. "What have they done to it?" Cedric said indignantly, stopping dead in his tracks. The Quidditch field was no longer smooth and flat. It looked as though somebody had been building long, low walls over all of it that twisted and crisscrossed in every direction. "They're hedges," said Harry, bending to examine the nearest one. "Hello there," called a cheery voice. Ludo Bagman was standing in the middle of the field with Crumb and Fleur. Harry and Cedric made their way toward them, climbing over the hedges. Fleur beamed at Harry as he came nearer. Her attitude toward him had changed completely since he had saved her sister from the lake. "Well, what do you think?" said Bagman happily as Harry and Cedric climbed over the last hedge. Growing nicely, aren't they? Give 'em a month and Hagrid'll have them 20 feet high. Don't worry, he added, grinning, spotting the less than happy expressions on Harry and Cedric's faces. You'll have your Quidditch field back to normal once the task is over. Now, I imagine you can guess what we're making here. No one spoke for a moment. Then, maze, grunted Crumb. That's right, said Bagman. A maze! The third task's really very straightforward. The Triwizard Cup will be placed in the center of the maze. The first champion to touch it will receive full marks. We simply have got to get through the maze, said Fleur. Kind of sounded more, it didn't sound very French, did it? We simply have to get through the maze? There will be obstacles, said Bagman happily, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Hagrid is providing a number of creatures. Then there will be spells that must be broken. All that sort of thing, you know. Now, the champions are leading on points. We'll get a head start into the maze. Bagman grinned at Harry and Cedric. Then Mr. Crumb will enter. Then Miss Delacour. But you'll be in with a fighting chance, depending on how well you get past the obstacles. Should be fun, eh? Harry, who knew only too well the kind of creatures that Hagrid was likely to provide for an event like this, thought it was unlikely to be any fun at all. However, he nodded politely like the other champions. Very well. If you haven't got any questions, we'll go back up to the castle, shall we? It's a bit chilly.